Hello everyone, this is Gene and I'm back with a new video. This is sort of spur of the moment. I was not intending to make a video today at least. I'm sort of up and down with what I want to do today, sort of bounce up between chores and, maybe having some fun or resting because, 3-day weekend. So I hope everybody's doing well. And I know not everyone, especially if you're not in the United States, um, gets Monday off, right? Because for us Americans, Monday is Memorial Day. It's a day to remember fallen law enforcement and military members and whatnot. And for most of us, it's a day off or a day to do a cookout or whatnot. So whatever you're doing this weekend or you're doing on Monday, I hope that it's fun and it's relaxing. Or if it's not, especially on Monday, since for most of us Monday is a work day usually, may your relaxation come sooner rather than later. Remember, it's 5 o'clock somewhere. But so I came across this, and I think it's Grums who I originally saw commenting on this. Uh, so I want to thank Grums because it's through him that I found this long thread, which I believe highlights the prevailing attitude, I think, at a lot of gaming companies and media companies in general, which is why they feel comfortable with putting out, or oftentimes feel comfortable putting out, a mediocre product, right? This is why I'm making this video. So before I do, uh, RJ is sleeping. If he happens to, get up and walk about while I'm making the video, I will certainly put him on screen quickly. But I want to show off one of my newest purchases. You might have heard about it from me, yakking 1,000 miles a minute online. But it's Badger! Badger from, there we go. Badger from Common America. So I just want to thank the Iconic Comics team for getting him to me. There was a little bit of a mishap, which happens to me often with the address issue. It's a story behind that. I'll get into it later. But thank you so much for helping out, helping to get him to me. I adore it. He's spending time with my Raphael and my Sub-Zero, and of course, my Solid Snake Ducky. So I'm slowly amassing a collection. You see, I really am a nerd. I've just never had the space, but I really am a nerd. But I just wanted to show that off. And now into the video proper, right? So we have this string of tweets from a gentleman known as Aaron San Fillipo, evil game developer who runs Flipfly. I don't know what the heck Flipfly is, and after this, I'm not sure I want to. But this seems to be in reference to some sort of apology statement from Golem Games regarding the release of Lord of the Rings Golem. I'm not going to get into their release because it isn't really about them. I don't know what the situation going on is with that. I want to address more Aaron's comments than necessarily the Golem drama. But if you're a fan of the Lord of the Rings or you're aware what's going on here, please let me know in the comments. So, Mr. San Filippo states here, perhaps an unpopular opinion, and no shade meant to this team at all. Sure, that's why. Anybody who says no shade is about to shade you, is basically it, right? But I really wish, as an industry, we would stop apologizing profusely for mediocre launches and slipped dates. Sir, you want to stop apologizing for doing your job poorly. Is that what you're saying here? You want to stop apologizing for doing a bad job and having the gall to release it to the world. Okay, let's hear you out. We need to stop perpetuating this notion that game companies are the servants of gamers. You do need a customer base, correct? I would imagine that whatever the heck Flipfly is, that you need some sort of paying customer base to operate it, correct? But let's continue. So he says here, if I spend $50 on dinner, first of all, there's no way you're only spending $50 on dinner if you're dining out these days with inflation. You're lucky. if you're only paying $50 on dinner? Is someone else paying for you or paying with you? That's the question. Right? But he says here, if I spend $50 on dinner and it's mediocre, I don't expect a handwritten profuse apology from the chef, especially if I have the option of just asking for my money back, even if the idea of that meal was really exciting to me. Well, here's the thing, sir. Now, I don't know where you dine out, but where I dine out, where I used to dine out, I used to dine out a lot. Now, of course, I don't get to do it so often. But in the instances where I had issues with the food or otherwise had issues with the service, the places I would dine out with, whether it was restaurants, whether it was diners, I am always around a diner. Whether I'm at home or at work, there's always a diner fairly nearby. But where I've been, if you have an issue with the service, you have an issue with the food, you can always ask them to remake it, right? Or if they can't or won't for some reason, yeah, you can get your money back. But usually, what they will do is apologize. At least the waiter will apologize. I've had waiters apologize to me for the way food tasted or how it was cooked if I had an issue with that. I've mainly had waiters apologize to me for if it's an excessively long wait, right? Especially if the restaurant isn't full or something. So even if it's not coming from the chef, the apology is coming from somebody who represents the establishment. This is the thing you have to understand, sir. Whether it's the chef, whether it's the waiter, whether it's the owner of the property, right, or the restaurant manager, they all represent the business. And therefore, even when hiccups happen, bad things happen, right? Nothing ever operates 100%. No one ever bats 1,000, right? But when those hiccups happen, showing respect toward a customer, especially if that customer is patient, right, is not rude or insulting, right? It behooves you to treat that person well, to make them feel valued, so that they are willing to at least overlook this one instance of bad service and go, okay, you know what? Eh, everyone has a bad day, right? Let me not never dine there again, right? But if somebody has your attitude, the attitude you're displaying in these tweets, right, where you display your own entitlement, well then, what's the reason of dining there again when I can get the same food or even better food at a different establishment? That's the thing. You don't want to run people away. You don't want to make people so angry that they go, well, I'll just go to the one down the street, or I'll just take the bus or the train or the cab or this or that. You want them to come back. You don't want to push them away. It's called customer service, where you make people feel welcome and feel valued. Even if in the back of your head you are cursing them out, when you're in front of them, you smile and you say, I'm sorry, sir, or I'm sorry, ma'am. I will take this back to the waiter and we'll see if we can get you, what you want. Or if it's a refund, let me process that refund for you. I am so sorry that you had a negative experience. Please note that this isn't common or standard for us, and we hope that you will consider us in the future. Right? Maybe give them a doggy bag, give them something, right, as an apology for poor service, to at least give them a reason to maybe give you one more try. Right? But here's the thing. So now this individual goes on to say, these are literally video games. Yes, we're aware. Gamers have invested virtually nothing, and whoo, boy howdy. That right there shows your entitlement, Aaron. To have the gall to say in a public forum, Twitter, for better or worse, is a public forum, to sit here and say in a public forum that gamers have invested virtually nothing in these games aside from that $30, $60, and they can just get a refund and move on with their lives. First of all, that is not how that works. I can't remember the last time that a game was $30 unless that game was on clearance. That's the only time. I cannot remember the last time. I would have had to have been a little kid. The last time a video game was sold at launch, right? At like $30 or $40. back when I was gaming regularly, games consistently, when they were released, were priced at least $50. So you're talking about getting money for a game that likely was already on clearance. They're not going to give you a refund for that. You ever go to a GameStop, right? You either get store credit or they give you like pennies, right? They give you pennies on the dollar for this game. You spend 60, you'll be lucky if you get $10 back in store credit or actual cash. Because the thing is that once you buy a video game, it's like a car. The moment you take it out the store, the moment it's delivered to you, the moment of purchase, its value is depreciating. You could literally sell it to another store next day, and immediately $20 gone. Right? You bought it for like 80. They will buy it from you for like 60 or 50. Right? So right there, you are off base. It is not that simple. Just get a refund. Any gamer who's ever tried to get a refund from the gaming company or the seller, whoever that was, will tell you horror stories about how difficult it is to get a refund. That's why you're more likely to keep the item, because it is less stressful on you to have the item even if you don't like it than it is to actually try to get your money back. So stop the cap. Stop the cap. And they can just get that refund and move on with their lives. Please, can we stop normalizing this idea that we have wronged people by making something disappointing? But you have wronged people. The idea you want to normalize, Aaron, is that wronging people, giving them a disappointing product, is perfectly okay. That's what you're trying to normalize. You're not trying to normalize quality. You're not even trying to normalize understanding, right? You're not saying, look, sometimes these things come out less than perfect. There's a bunch of internal reasons why that gamers usually aren't aware of, right? You're not even trying to like soften the blow. You're literally sitting from wherever you are, typing multiple tweets, trying to normalize in your industry, right, that companies should no longer feel bad for releasing a mediocre product to the audience, to the customer base they need to buy it, right? See, tweets like this are why pirating is so damn popular, because people don't want to spend their hard-earned money, right? And I'm going to be clear, I'm not telling people to pirate. Whether you do or you don't is up to you. But this is why people do that. Because they don't want to have to spend their money on something that could potentially be mediocre. Why in the world spend your money on it if this is the attitude that somebody in the company who worked on it is going to have? Oh, we shouldn't have to apologize for selling them a poor product at, what, $70-$80 now? Seems to be the standard price these days. Not to mention that when you take into account all of the DLCs and season passes or whatever else, comes out to well $100 per game. Once you get all of that online downloadable content, you want people to just spend their money without any concern for quality, and not only no concern for quality, but just to basically accept poor quality. Please give me your $100+. I only gave you, a mediocre product that you're unhappy with, but still give me that money. You owe it to me, because you bought the last game when it was good. So give me the money now, even though the sequel is nowhere near as good. No, sir. This is just entitlement. This is peak entitlement on your side. People want to criticize gamers for being an entitled bunch, and yeah, gamers can be entitled. Gamers can be very demanding or unreasonable. But you don't respond to that by then being arrogantly entitled the way you are here, literally trying to normalize doing mediocre work. No, that should never be acceptable at any company. Mediocre work will happen. Nobody bats 1,000. But the idea should not be to normalize that. Sir, I don't know how you run a business then if you think mediocrity is acceptable. If you have employees, dang good and well, you would not accept mediocrity for them. You would tell them to shape up, or you would fire them. Right? So here he continues, right? Uncomfortable truth I think we need to grapple with. What we're grappling with here, sir, is your ego, not the truth. But he says here, uncomfortable truth I think we need to grapple with here. This sort of apology, referring to the golem thing up top, absolutely helps perpetuate entitlement amongst gamers and makes them feel empowered to harass devs when they don't like the latest patch or design choice. I think that he's completely wrong here, with the exception of the point about harassing devs. I actually will agree with him about the harassment of devs. Don't harass the devs, because the devs likely had little, if anything, to do with it. The devs most of the time are not the ones making the creative decisions, right? They're the ones who have all this impossible work thrown on their desk, thrown on their shoulders, and they're the ones having to endure crunch, having to work long into the night, having to work many, many, many weekends to make sure that this mediocre product that Mr. San Fillipo wants to normalize and say it's okay to release, right? Even that mediocre product, a mediocre product, is still a big project, right? And many people who have mouths to feed, who have families to take care of, who don't have the option of quitting or walking away, have to make a lot of sacrifices to even get the mediocre release out. So yeah, on that regard, I actually agree with him. Do not harass the devs. Right? Now it's different if the devs come out and say something dumb or something that antagonizes gamers. Then I think you have a right to respond. But if the devs aren't saying anything, or if they are saying something but nothing of what they're saying is like antagonistic, then yeah, don't send your vitriol their way. Send it to the companies themselves, not the developer, who likely had little to no say in the big decisions that made the final product what it is. So I will give Aaron that. So then he tries to basically save himself and sort of backpedal and go, what I actually said. And then he puts this link. What some of y'all heard, apparently. Gamers shouldn't leave bad reviews, consumer protections aren't necessary, and I'm part of a cabal of evil game devs who love cash-grabbing gamers with crappy products. Well, I didn't hear any of that, sir. What I heard was just your massive entitlement complex. What I heard, sir, was you trying to justify releasing a less than ideal quality product because apparently gamers are entitled and shouldn't get what they asked for, or get a quality product that they've been expecting, that they've been anticipating. The only reason the video game industry exists today is because it was people like me and people like my mother, right, who were buying video games and video game systems 30, 35, 40 years ago. It was because of older fans and their parents, and then when they grew up themselves, they started buying games, right? It was the consistent customers that consistently put in money. That is why gaming still exists decades later, right? And especially given that it's a distinct form of tech based entertainment, right? It doesn't have this long established history like say music does or the movies do, right? Compared to all that, it's very new, it's very young, and technology develops so fast, and the tech industry is absolutely ruthless. Video games, honestly, probably shouldn't have gone past the 2000s at least, if we're being honest. But they did. They did because people grew up with this stuff and they wanted to see it thrive, and they wanted to see their favorite franchises move forward and grow, and they wanted to be a part of this thing that was growing up with them. It was loyalty of people like myself, like my brother, who literally just lent me his old PS4 that he spent hundreds of dollars on when it was first released, and he even gave me 2 games: Horizon Zero Dawn and Mass Effect Andromeda. Whatever you think of those games, they certainly were not cheap, and he paid money for them, right? It's because of people like us, and of course everybody who has come in since then, that keep this industry alive, and yet we're supposed to just accept mediocre product to what? Soothe Aaron's ego? To make him feel better about being a part of something that could have been better had there actually been quality controls? No, I don't think so. So he says here, look, leave your negative review, boycott the company, fight for better refund policies. Hell, join a class action lawsuit if you can't get your money back for a broken product. There should be repercussions for bad consumer practices, and people should absolutely get refunds. Finally, you say something sensible. You're right. These are acceptable forms of displaying your displeasure. But here's the thing. Ideally, people should not have to do this. People do these things because the product is bad. Most individuals don't do these things with a well-received, overall good product. Okay, when I get something bad, if I buy a bad video game, or I go and I order a meal and it's not to my liking, it's like I do things like leave a review or file a complaint or whatever it is, depending on the situation, because that's my only recourse to hopefully be refunded in some way, right? It's not because I wanted it to happen. Those are means of redress, right? That ideally you shouldn't have to take. If the product is good in the first place, you likely won't be doing these things. If the product is good in the first place, you'll be writing a positive review. You won't boycott the company. You won't have to worry about refund policies, because the last thing you would want is your money back. These are what's what I'm looking for? Like last ditch efforts that people have to do when something is bad. If the product is not bad, if the product is to the person's liking or even beyond, none of this is an issue. All of this can be by and large avoided if you put out a good product in the first place, which by your own tweets, sir, you seem to be vehemently against, to the point where you want to normalize mediocrity. I don't get it. I don't understand why you want to normalize mediocrity, so people like myself have to take all of these different avenues just to get our money back or just to be heard. It would be much better for all parties to put out a good product the first time. Get it right the first time. Right? But he continues. But the ideas that a company has wronged you if they make a thing that doesn't live up to your expectations, or that they somehow work for you, sorry, those are ideas that frankly need to die. Well, don't worry, sir. It's highly doubtful you'll ever work for me, or that I will buy a product that I would excuse me, or that I would ever buy a product from you, because you've clearly shown that you don't respect me as a consumer. Excuse me. Been dealing with a bit of a coughing and sneezing fit. These colds don't want to let me go these days. Alright, so as I was saying, it's highly unlikely that I would buy anything associated with this man, because why in the world would I, when he seems to be perfectly in favor of selling less than quality product? It's basically what I was trying to say. Right, so moving on, he says, here, so far, 3 people have told me that yes, dev's role is to serve gamers. How do I put it? The dev's role isn't necessarily to serve gamers. The dev's role is to do whatever their boss tells them to, right? But the overall guidance or direction or leadership should be concerned about if this will be a fun experience for the gamer. Because then literally, what's the point? What's the point? If it's not a fun experience for the player is less likely to buy it. And then your studio goes under. Just ask the folks behind Forspoken. Right? So it says here, so he says that. Someone compared bad games to vehicle manufacturers shipping cars with missing parts. I wonder who said that. I'm not sure I believe him. But no, to me that's a little different because if a vehicle is missing a critical piece, well then someone's gonna drive. Whoever drives it as is at increased risk of dying, and if they have anybody in the car, they're at increased risk of dying. So I disagree with that comparison, but I do understand where it comes from, right? A vehicle manufacturer gets in serious trouble, right, if their product is defective. And although for different reasons, yeah, game companies should get in trouble if the product that they release is defective or is underwhelming or disappointing. You don't get a pass for putting out trash product. No. So then it says, someone compared bad games to restaurant food poisoning customers. Again, first of all, I'm not entirely sure. I believe his comments here. But if someone did compare it to food poisoning, again, that's a bit too extreme. I've had food poisoning. I've been in the hospital for that. It is not fun. A bad game is not a threat to your health. Right? But as I did in this long spiel, yeah, it is comparable to getting bad food, bad tasting food, or mediocre or even arrogant customer service at a restaurant, because that's what'll turn you away, right? If somebody acts like this guy and he's your waiter or he's the cook and he's like, well, I don't have to please you. Imagine if the cook came out and said, who cares if you think this soup is too salty? I don't have to please you. I don't work for you. You don't pay me. You know what you would likely say? Oh, don't worry. I'll never come back again. Right? You wouldn't tolerate that. Now he says here, two homophobic slurs. Like, I didn't see any slurs. Gamers having a normal one here. Again, you want to take the audience whose money you need to keep your operation going, and you want to make them look bad because what? You want social media points? There you go. There's your claps. Are you happy now? Are you happy now, Aaron? You've got your attention. You got nearly 30 minutes of my undivided attention. I hope you're happy. And if this is the way you honestly conduct business for yourself, you're going to end up filling out unemployment papers and standing on a welfare line real quick. Because a company cannot stand for long with this type of behavior, right? But you know what this reminds me of? And here's the reason why. Here's the reason why I'm responding to this. Because Mr. San Fillipo's attitude is not new. It is not new at all. It is an attitude that has been shared and displayed by modern American pop media for, some would say, over a decade now. This idea that you don't have to put out something pleasing to your paying customers, whether it's comics, whether it's video games, whether it's movies, or whether it's TV shows or anything else, right? And yet, what do we often see, right? It doesn't happen every time, but it happens a lot. What happens, right? Think of like Netflix Cowboy Bebop, right? people were not happy with the casting. They especially weren't happy with the woman who played Faye, right? What was her name? Danielle Pineda, right? And what did she do? She lashed out at fans, right? The people who were gonna have to pay, at least pay their Netflix subscription to watch it. She lashed out at them. What happened? The show was rated poorly, even by critics who were shilling for it, and the fans saw it. Fans reported on it, reported how awful it was, and how much it was not in the spirit of the original anime. And that second season they were talking about, at least at the moment, hasn't happened. It got canceled, right? Or you, right? Or you think about, what was it? I think last year or the year prior when Rockstar did their uh, re-release of the GTA trilogy, right? GTA 3, Vice City, and San Andreas with the updated graphics, right? And how individuals, including myself, were talking about how horrible the new graphics looked and the controls and all this other stuff. What did Rockstar eventually do? They apologized. I think I did a video covering that. But you know what would have been better? Had they simply either worked on the product and released a good product, or just re-released the three original games as they were. It would have been easier just to do it that way. Those games are still beloved 20 years later. Yet, they took on the attitude that Mr. San Fillipo here has and thought that, oh, we can just put out slop. We don't care. They'll buy it anyway. Yeah, that is not the way to treat your fan base, right? Because sooner or later, they're either going to abandon you, right? Or you're going to end up having to apologize. Or you think of stuff like how incredibly buggy and patchy Cyberpunk 2099 was upon release, right? In my opinion, companies should not have this mindset going into things. Again, disappointments are going to happen, right? I have watched sports most of my life, right? Every team has an up period and a down period. That's going to happen. But there is a difference between trying your best and failing, and then essentially tanking, right? Intentionally doing bad. Never, in any industry, in any business, large or small, should you ever have the attitude of tanking, of intentionally creating and releasing a trash product and then expecting your customer, me, right, the person who has the disposable income, to pay for it. Not only do you want me to pay for it, you expect me to pay for it. You expect me to put any sense of taste, any sense of standard and decency aside just to support you because you think you deserve it because you exist. In a weird way, it reminds me, and it's not exactly the same, but it kind of reminds me of that Chris Rock skit where he talks about the difference between black people and N-words. And the one thing he notes about N-words is that N-words expect praise for stuff you're supposed to do, right? It's like, well, I take care of my kids. It's like, yeah, that's what you're supposed to do. That's like the bare minimum. And that's the kind of thing I'm getting from Mr. San Filippo here. This idea that good enough is good enough, or the bare minimum is good enough, and how dare you, the paying customer, accept better, or rather demand better. How dare you want something worth your money? Right? I never thought I would live to see the day where somebody would have the gall to basically put out this type of messaging to a paying audience. But here we are. So these are his opinions, and this is my opinion of his opinion. Please let me know your opinion down below. And I hope you all are having a good day. And RJ is still napping a half hour later. Anyways, I will see y'all around. I plan to do some work and some relaxing, and I hope you guys get to do the same. Have a good day and night wherever you are.